Very good evening, everyone. Charles here of Frgntforex.com, Frgnt Mastery and Frgnt Daily Chart Analysis. Very good evening. Just approaching 10 minutes to 8 here in Milan on Monday, the 9th of March, 2026. So the day's plays have ended in some capacity. I'm still long in one position, but here's the breakdown. So we took three positions today, two long positions on Euro GBP. I was able to compound that position. It looks atrocious at this time, but nevertheless, both trades ended out in break even, unfortunately, or I should say fortunately, to be quite honest. A break even trade is not a bad trade at all. To give myself some credit, break even profits on one and a full break even position on another, which I will dive into in just a moment. And then the third trade of the day was pound CAD long, which I've closed 50% of those profits out. And I'll wait to see if price will hit the 4-hour 50 EMA before taking the rest of the money off the table. So let's talk about Euro GBP first and foremost. So this morning, spoken about in Frgnt Mastery, the members and I went over the pairs. So Euro GBP in particular, we were expecting, blimey, 12 hours ago. The charts look always a little bit chaotic, but those in Frgnt Mastery have developed a way of understanding my chart patterns and the behaviors of which I illustrate my charts off. So nevertheless, on the 4-hour time frame, we can see that 4-hour order block that was created, and I was expecting a bullish reaction off of that order block, potentially up into the daily and the 4-hour 50 EMA. It wasn't to be, I'm afraid, in terms of Euro GBP, but nevertheless, you can see the charts, or rather the trades, are forecasted well in advance of actually taking the position. So where are we in the here and now? So you saw previously that we were in that higher time frame point of interest, and the break, or rather the 4-hour candle that allowed us to actually select the 4-hour order block, refine within that area. This beautiful imbalance there left on the 15 that I think just prior to London opening, price dipped into it. Now, as soon as we got off the call on Frgnt Mastery, I went straight down to the 1 minute, in all honesty, and I'll scroll backwards so you can have a look to see what went on. So, an aggressive entry to begin with, and you can see that as a result of my stop loss size. It doesn't look tremendously large, just under 10 pips, but knowing what you can have on EG, it was particularly large. Now, the reason behind that is I didn't have too much justification to take this position, aside from the fact that indeed it was, or rather price itself, was in that higher time frame point of interest. Now, as a result of that 15-minute order block creating significant, or I should say minor blocks, it's not significant at all, minor breaks of structure, i.e. this position here, but I'll put a circle around it using my favorite tool, and also this position here as candles had then closed above the area, looking for price to return, give me that entry criteria before looking to go long. More often than not, first thing London open, in all honesty, I'm always a little bit hesitant to take a position straight off the bat, i.e. as soon as London opens, but nevertheless, that was the trade criteria. So we went down to that 1 minute time frame. If I scroll backwards now, you'll have a look to see what exactly went on. And as you can see, we had that 1 minute bullish candle that really showed me signs of something different. What that sign of something different was is every other candle in and around this area, once price had tapped into that 15-minute order block, simply refused to close bullish above that area. Now, as soon as that candle indeed closed bullish above the area, it then left me with a 1 minute order block, of which I then set a limit order from that 1 minute order block. Now, recognizing that indeed that was an aggressive entry, I had to mitigate that by using two methods. Enlarging my stop loss, first and foremost, as you can see, still sat there around 8.5 to 10 pips. And with that said, secondly, I had to go break even by the imbalance in the opposite direction, where I was foreseeing that if I am just absolutely incorrect and the low was created, any price action as a result of taking off from this area could well be the lower high to be created before then price making that lower low. So I really did want to safeguard myself against that. So I remained on the 1 minute time frame. I selected this 1 minute order block in terms of imbalance in the opposite direction. And as soon as price tapped this area, I went break even. What you can see is I survived that trade for quite some time, to be quite honest, and price, it did go in my favor to somewhat, but nothing substantial in terms of closing positions out or even managing profits on that particular trade. As I zoom out, you can see that's the high that price really got to throughout the entirety of the day, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, exactly. So nothing really to shout about, in all honesty. That first position, at some point I was taken out break even, as you can see, in and around these areas. Now the compound, in looking at or in managing this position, I missed a long position potentially on EU that actually absolutely flew to the highs. But nevertheless, what I was doing was seeing, well, I'm break even in this position. I understand that price hasn't fully developed to the best standard that I most often than not hold myself to be honest. And as I said, the mitigation on that is the larger stop loss and the aggressive method of going break even. Nevertheless, as a result of price actually pushing me into profit on that first position, another imbalance was left behind on that 1 minute time frame. And again, that is the only imbalance left behind. Therefore, it made my job very easy to actually compound that position without any hesitant or doubt, to be honest, because it's actually now is where I would prefer to be in the market. So that's a simple long position for me. As a result of tapping into that 15-minute order block refined within the 4, I know I'm in a higher time frame point of interest as well. I have every expectation that price would look to at least want to push me towards break even. That's my goal, first and foremost, to manage the trade. Now, once that order block was then selected, again, another limit order was set straight off the bat as a result of price pushing into that area, and off price went. So this time, again, price actually got up to roughly 3.5%. And that's where I closed a proportion of that trade out, to be quite honest. But again, price rolled back all the way back down to tap me out break even. So it wasn't the end of the world. Again, nothing really to scream about. And the reason behind me not actually closing that trade out is, as you've seen previously on the analysis 12 hours ago, I had the expectation that, well, if price was clearly ready to start breaking these areas and push up to the upside, then I'd be looking to drive price up in towards that daily and 4-hour 50 MA before expecting the inverse operations in terms of short positions. So I was very keen to hold this trade, and you can see that by my management on GCAD at the moment. So that's EG, nothing really to scream about. One break-even trade, full break-even, and one trade that I was able to bank some profits on. So that's EG spoken about. Now GCAD, the runner of the day, to be honest, much of the same in terms of criteria. Again, price is in and around a higher time frame point of interest, namely the daily. So price was trending below the daily time frame when we came to price in the morning. So we had every expectation again that price is looking to reject those higher time frame order blocks to the upside. And as you can see by my risk to reward tool, I was looking for price to head up towards that 4-hour 50 EMA, find liquidity above, and I'd be looking for a potential short position down. So that's a 1 to 8 target. Currently sat, well, it was around 1 to 5, but I closed a proportion out at 1 to 4, halfway there, and I figured, well, let's just leave the rest to see what happens. So it's not a bad Monday, to be honest. We've banked some decent profits, I'd say, for the week, if not for the month, to be quite honest. But nevertheless, just a bit of a dive into the entry criteria. You can see here it's pretty much of the same. In the live call this morning, I did say I'd much prefer for price to break this area and come back. What you can see is, as more often than not, nothing, well, I wouldn't say that. Sometimes price goes to absolute plan, but what we do see is a wick above that area. The reason which enticed me in is simply because that wick was higher than any other previous wick. more often than not, I would sometimes look to leave these trades alone. I would really want to see a full body closure above a particular area, then have the pullback to look to go long. But as a result of looking at the performance of GU, EU, I had the inclination that potentially all those cross pairs in terms of the pound were looking to rally towards the upside. So again, when you trust your analysis and feel that the correlating pairs are also moving in line with your pair, you really just want to get in the trade, right? So as long as you've got your setup, your entry criteria presents itself, it's made very easy to trade, right? So that's a 15-minute time frame. As you can see, we were bearish. We had the gap to the upside. We're using that as confluence. Of course, Asia was filled, so we lost the confluence there. But in all honesty, I did want Asia to be broken to the upside before taking that long position anyway. So I recognize that, and we discussed that in Frgnt Mastery roughly 13 hours ago before the trade had been taken. So what we had this morning, we had this 15-minute order block, of course, which caused this initial break of structure on the 15. Price came in and off it went. So I was thinking potentially that could have been the end of it. But nevertheless, you stick to the guns and stick to the plan. Down to the 5-minute time frame, and that's where it all started to really start making sense. I'm not one to draw trend lines in, but as you can see, price was slowly creeping up and making higher highs. So as a result of one break, we've had another break. Then I looked for the imbalance, didn't quite get that trade because, of course, London hadn't quite opened yet, and I was already in a long position on EG, so I needed to manage my account correctly. So we had to wait, unfortunately, but what we can see is as a result of that imbalance created, then here was the second or the third push, I should say, which then left us another imbalance. So again, it just became incredibly easy to spot that position. And as I said, as soon as price come back into this area, it would have been a limit order for myself, and taking that on the touch of that imbalance, and just having a nice safeguarded stop loss underneath the previous area that caused the first or the second break. So I figured that was a substantial, or rather a good enough stop loss. And as you can see, we're already close to touching 30 pips on pound CAD. I didn't really want to start exceeding that. And to be honest, potentially ego got the better of me looking at a potential 1 to 8 with that type of stop loss. Whereas if I would have been ultra safe, there you can see the difference. We're looking at 1 to 4. So really it's management. If you're able to see the price, able to actually trust your analysis, have a decent stop loss, and then be able to push your trade to break even. So as I said, currently in that position now, still in that position, more than likely going to have to hold that overnight to see if price will get up to that 4-hour 50 MA before the trade will be taken off the market. So as I said, all round a pretty good day for a Monday, I'd say. And I hope the breakdown makes sense. And I hope you're able to gain some insight into the way that I showcase my trading in Frgnt Mastery. And if you're, of course, interested in that, frgntforex.com, join Frgnt Live, pre-London Open, Frgnt Live, learn and earn, figure out exactly what's going on inside the chat. It's a very nice community that you're able to liaise with other fantastic traders, taking trades not just in line with me, but adapting my method, using it on lower time frames. Everything goes so long as your risk is managed, so long as you're trading in line with your own plan. It's a great community to be in. So thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate your time and